What's up YouTube, Capital G here talking Trickstar. In this video, the deck actually just won ARG St. Louis over the weekend, the first large-scale competitive Yu-Gi-Oh event of the new formats, and I think I just want to talk about the archetype for a bit and maybe ask the question, do you guys think that this is going to have an impact going into YCS San Diego, which I believe takes place in a couple of weeks, or maybe does this change your opinions on Trickstar as an archetype and how good they actually are? Now let me just put this on Front Street, let me just be fully transparent. I am a very big fan of this archetype, man. I really have grown extremely fond of it. Maybe you haven't come to my live streams, you haven't been watching my videos over the past couple of weeks, but I really like this archetype because it's just so much freaking fun. And I wasn't always like that. When I first looked at Trickstar, I was just like, okay, so this is just your prototypical anime girl deck, right? I mean, it's Melodious 2.0. All the cards are really pretty and shiny and colorful, and they don't do anything. And I was like, what is this deck's win condition? Is it actually good? And then I started playing it, and I got past the negative stigma, because you guys know if a deck has multiple ways of doing like effect damage, people automatically classify you as a burn deck, and they just want to kill your ass with fire. They're like, yo, you are Chain Burn 2.0. You're so freaking degenerate. It's not like Chain Burn, guys. This deck actually has to interact with its opponent. Maybe you still think that the deck is super degenerate. That's fine. I'm not really here to change your mind, but the deck is so fucking fun. There's like so many weird disruptive plays that you can do. And I'm not just talking about the reincarnation loop with Joel and Lockbird, like just a lot of disruptive things, like locking down your opponent's back row card with Trickstar Light Stage and then like forcing them to activate it or lose the card, or there's a lot of weird ways of like bouncing monsters or summoning monsters during your opponent's turn with like reincarnation and Lyco Risk. And I don't know, I just really like the interactions of the deck. I kind of like how you have to hit your opponent and then burn them and then hit them and burn them and just find a way to get the 8,000 damage. So let's go ahead and talk about this deck and how good it actually is. For starters, let me just address two things. Number one, I know people are going to be like, oh, Cap, so you admit you love Trickstars. You admit that your entire Trickstar reincarnation should not be limited video was bogus. No, I didn't make that video because of personal bias. I made that video because that would be a stupid limit on Konami's part in the TCG. There are way bigger problems in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh! Than Trickstar fucking reincarnation. Keep this ARG win into perspective. ARGs are definitely high-level events, but they're nowhere near the sizes of like a YCS. YCS London was, I believe, 1,400 plus players, and YCS Dallas before that was 1,100 players. It winning this event is fine, but this doesn't mean that like Trickstar are the best deck or that they're too broken and reincarnation has to be banned automatically now. Like, get that nonsense out of here. The main point that I wanted to make with reincarnation was, A, I never believed that Trickstar will be the best deck of the format. I think that they'll be very similar to something like Teller Knights, and B, if you do happen to limit Trickstar reincarnation, you basically just kill this deck. It's like, just go ahead and press clear right here on the deck, because it's no longer, like, it doesn't even exist anymore if reincarnation is only at one. Let me make sure I can actually get my my deck back. Maybe I shouldn't have actually clicked it, but you guys get the point that I'm trying to make. And then the second thing is, I actually feel quite validated in putting Trickstar so high on my top 10 list. Obviously, I made that list before I knew what had won the YCS, or excuse me, the ARG, and I obviously had no idea that Trickstar were going to be in the finals. But one of the biggest things about Trickstars and why I thought that it would do so well this format, and honestly, why I think it's going to do well into future formats, unless, Konami does something dumb like hit reincarnation, there's just no one card that shuts this deck down. Trickstar can play so many different cards in their main deck, and it's one of the only decks that has inherently a split win condition, because you can easily win your opponent. Like, you can beat your opponent doing 50% burn and 50% battle damage, and it's hard to stop your opponent from doing either. Like, it's hard to stop them from doing both of those. Maybe you can stop them from burning you, but it's hard to stop the battle damage and the burn simultaneously. But Trickstar, like, they don't have that one great card that like answers them. I keep hearing Artifact Lancia, but that just, it only stops this one card. It stops reincarnation. And honestly, if you're that worried about stopping reincarnation, I mean, you can fucking Ash Blossom reincarnation. So that's really not something that is going to shut a Trickstar player down and make it so that they don't win. There is no one card lockdown. There's no like, anti-spell fragrance for Pendulum Magicians, or, tribute summoning if you're playing like a Burning Abyss monster, or excuse me, if you're playing Burning Abyss, there's no like summon Vanity's Fiend turn 1 against Spirals and they're just like, oh shit, we don't have any outs to this. I only have my one copy of, Spirals Spiral Resort Wire, but I can't get to it, so I guess I just like automatically scoop. Trickstar, it can be a very split deck, and if you guys look at the two builds that made top 16 at this event, oh my god, they are so completely different. Like, this is the first build, which I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is pretty standard. This is almost what I run. I don't like Droll and Lockbird. I, personally like Honest a little more, but this is definitely what I would consider a standard build. But look at the other build that made top 16, and it just goes to further my point about how difficult Trickstars is to stop. This is a build that runs, 3 copies of Arrivals, 3 copies of Chain Summoning, and 3 copies of Brilliant Fusion, for God's sakes. This guy is basically saying every single turn I am getting like 18 normal summons, and you're not gonna stop me, because if you negate any of these cards, I got way more cards that can do the same thing. I think he also has no problems tributing his monsters to take your monsters, which is why he's running 3 copies of Enemy Controller, and he really wants to get to that field spell. 3 Terraforming, 3 Light Stage, and 3 copies of Metaverse. Like, what the hell? Now, some of this, I think maybe he wants to activate Light Stage during his opponent's turn so that he can, like, maybe summon Lycaris, but like, I don't even understand how this version works. Like, this is some completely next level shit. But do you see how Trickstar's, like, one version can be day and the other version can be night? And it's like, how do you focus on this deck when the cards that they run outside of the core Trickstar engine, which I think I added it up as 13 cards. If you run if you run 3, 3, 1, 3, and then 3 of the Light Stage, like, it's like a 13 card engine, not including Terraforming, if I'm not mistaken. Like, what do you run when the rest of the cards, when the other 27 cards are just completely unknown entities? Like, I don't really know. This guy's running barely any hand traps. He has Max C, I guess you can count Honest, and nothing else, as opposed to the guy who won the event, who runs absolutely no Honest. But when you play Trickstars, don't you just assume they automatically have Honest? You know what I mean? Like, the mind games with this deck are so real and fun. Your opponent just assumes you always have Reincarnation. They assume you always have Honest, and that's something I really like about the deck. Now, to put things into perspective, I alluded to this earlier, I do not believe that this makes Trickstar the best deck. Not even in my opinion, as somebody who really enjoys the deck. I don't think that this makes them the favorite going into YCS San Diego, and I think that their role will be very similar to like Sir Teller Knights during the Duelist Alliance era. Maybe they can win a maybe they can win an ARG or make top 8 at YCSs consistently, but I don't actually expect Trickstars to ever win a YCS unless some player just like plays the nuts, because I don't think there's ever going to be a time where this is the best deck in the game. Like, maybe at YCS San Diego, I fully expect like 2 or 3 Trickstars to get in there, but unless one guy really gets hot, I think maybe top 4 is probably the end of the line for the deck. I mean, you have to play so extremely good and be lucky to actually win a YCS. I don't think Trickstars will ever get the numbers. I think that this might help their numbers going in. I think that this definitely makes people respect them. And people are going to turn their attention to the deck and think, do I really want to lose? Do I want to lose matches because I'm not siding anything against Trickstars and I'm completely focusing on Pendulum Magicians and maybe Magical Musketeers and Spiral? Or do I want to try and allot a couple of cards that are like anti-burn to try and stop at least the burn side of Trickstar or something like that? But I don't think that this win, putting things into perspective, I don't think that this makes them the favorite or the best deck. And it's another reason why I don't think that Reincarnation should ever be it, because I don't think Trickstar will ever be the best deck. I think that there'll be that deck that's always floating around tier 1.5 that you kind of always have to have in the back of your head, that maybe if you're at the if you're on the bubble at a regional, that player like fucks up your whole day, like, oh, he opened double Reincarnation Honest, it just fucked me up, and I just didn't, I forgot Trickstar was even a thing. But I don't know, I still want to keep this into perspective. It was definitely a good win, and maybe the top 16 of the ARG St. Louis, which was like it was like 7 Spirals and like 2 Pendulum Magicians, I think like double Burning Abyss and a whole bunch of different stuff, Paleo. Maybe that is going to be a representation of our format, which will be excellent. And I guess we'll just have to see and wait. But what do you guys ultimately take away from this? Does it change your mind on Trickstar as a deck? Because I think that there are a lot of people out there that think Trickstar is actually a terrible deck, and no, I think at worst it's probably the 5th best deck in Yu-Gi-Oh! At worst. Maybe you think Invoked is better than it. Maybe you think that Masterpiece and Fringe True Draco is better than it or something. But you're not. I would be hard pressed to find 5 decks that are better than Trickstars in the game right now. So whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. I'm just gonna go ahead and set aside 20 people who are gonna dislike this video because they think that I'm white knighting for Trickstar. Like, Cap G just don't want to see Reincarnation ban. Has nothing to do with that. Like, you ban the card, you literally make it not a deck anymore. It'll never be the best deck in the game. If it is, then I guess I'll just completely eat my words. But whatever you guys think, leave it in the comment section below. Thank you guys for watching. As always, subscribe if you have not already, and turn on those notifications for daily videos. I always stumble at the end. Also, one last thing, is there some rule in Yu-Gi-Oh? Because I swear since like the beginning of this game's existence, players have always had like the worst damn handwriting in the world, man. Look at this chicken scratch. Thank goodness I actually play this deck. Otherwise, there's no way I would have been able to actually decode and decipher this. Anyways, if you guys want the decks, they'll also be in the download links will also be in the description.